by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages, including facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Any of those places, most of those places, either of those names, you're going to find us and be able to join in on the conversation, particularly today as we have made it through the week. We are on the cusp of the weekend and ready to start talking about, well, whatever you want to, because that is the thing we do today with Free For All Friday. Take on any subject. Do ask that you keep particularly the FCC stuff on board, and we always get a lot of immediate response here, which I do appreciate, even if it's just to watch me squirm sometimes. I did see you, Miss Falco, yesterday. Don't think that I didn't, because, well, we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that we did get into this week, absolutely, and we'll continue talking about the important things that affect us here in the borderland, but there's so much more than we can ever get to within even one of our shows, even 4 to 6 p.m. now as we are these days. So this is the time when you can bring up those things. Again, just keep it clean, particularly if you're calling in, but those phone lines are open throughout the hour, both hours, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, as we have Calvin Williams, John Hertz, Edgar Ortiz, and John Hertz bringing up, don't have a good sense of 2022 yet, but the toll it has taken on notables, both local and nationally, suggesting that today's show be a tribute to Meatloaf. Definitely there's members of my family that have pretty much, I think, a better appreciation of Meatloaf than I do, but certainly can appreciate the pipes and what we've lost here today, but also very much worth pointing out that Jim Forbes, notable El Paso basketball coach and Bel Air for years, and that he was also chosen to play on the 1972 Olympic team, but he has passed away as also this week. So it has been, I don't want to say that I'm pigeonholing 2022 yet, but it has been a particularly rough time for sports fans in our area with the losses that we have been seeing. And hopefully that doesn't continue, but that's at least where we are here at the start of the year. So also Louis Anderson, if we're talking nationally as well. So a lot of notables being lost there. So do appreciate the mention of it. As we also have Edgar Ortiz on board with us as we're ready to launch into it. Do of course have to thank everyone that came out last night to the Thrive 915 Speed Networking Business Mixer out at Mountain Star Brewing off of Pelicano. A little bit of a drive for me, but I was happy to head there right after our show yesterday and talk with the assembled local persons, and also have Leroy Chuck joining in with us here, and John Brazelton, a lot more going in discussion there. But everyone who did come out and participate, I talked about the entrepreneurial spirits, because even doing this kind of a thing, it kind of applies to me, but also giving yourself permission as a small business to believe in your own success, because let's face it, there's plenty of other people who are doing that kind of work that you're probably in, but don't have a second thought about whether it's good quality or not. They're just there to do it. Plenty of people out there doing that. So if you're at all worried about it, you're ahead of the game, but you can't let it hold yourself back. Also just got to have some great conversations with other local small businesses and entrepreneurs and get another kind of sense of what is going on, talking about some things involving business leadership that I've brought up more than a couple of times as well. So good conversations, see if they may end up with some further interviews on air. So stay tuned for that. John Brazelton broaching a subject that is, very, I'm not going to go fully on with you. I don't tend to try to diagnose any elected official if I'm not in any medical capacity over them, but that yesterday's press conference being a little bit, well, the last couple, really, when we're talking about specifically the ones coming out of the White House, the one that happened earlier this week about how, well, if Russia does a minor incursion, no one will mind, and then everyone else shouting, the hell we won't, particularly Ukraine. I have had Ukraine, South China Sea, Philippines on the brain most of this week. So I pay attention to a lot of other things besides what we talk about daily on the show, even though they don't technically fit what we go on. But I guess I'm a little bit excited to talk about some of those things as well. So just some of the topics we've had going on this week in the background behind what we're talking about. That, I mean, if rubber starts hitting the road, which knock on wood, it won't. But hey, guess where some things will probably end up being deployed from, shipped out from, and end up seeing people come through, probably Fort Bliss and associated facilities out here. So again, hoping that we will turn away, someone will step away from the edge. But yeah, it absolutely is something that has taken up a lot of brain space for me here. Calvin Williams bringing up another thing about elections here that he'd like people to think about. One thing, calling out Democrats specifically, don't do anything for people unless the polls are in their favor. So very unhappy with the Democrats here in town and the way they're voting. All I'm going to say is that if you are interested in these elections, which I should hope you do if you're listening to this program or this channel in general, because frankly, there's not anything that goes on here that, okay, maybe not the overnight stuff. I won't claim their purpose here. They do their own thing. But in general, everything we talk about here, whether it be the news, politics, economics, and even things like that we have on, all revolve around this. So with these elections coming up, we are just under a month away from early voting actually starting for these upcoming primaries. And what we got coming up in those, this is going to be setting the table then, of course, for the general election. No secret there. But there are some pretty crowded fields at the top of the ballot here. I can't think, at least 4 in each of like some of the top officials within the state, at least, on, frankly, both sides of the ballot, either primary, Democrat or Republican. I do believe, if I'm not misremembering, because I know that the Republican Attorney General's race has 4 pretty serious contenders, as well as decently crowded fields, increasingly crowded fields as you go up from lieutenant governor, then into the governor's race. So all of these just, slightly important, because we then end up getting into the general election coming up in November. So here are the things that, if you are interested in this, if you are thinking about this, I want you to do 2 things. Go to epcountyvotes.com if you can. Make sure you are registered to vote, because if you're not, shame on you, and I have my own bone to pick with you, but you can absolutely figure out if you're registered. Make sure that you are. If you can't do it, don't have a internet service, go to your nearest open local library, ask for to use the internet and work on that. They're going to be sending out some additional one, but yes, you can check your voter registration, make sure that you are, get the steps to get registered, and then here's the second part, because assuming that you're good on that, make the plan to go vote, because we are using the handy-dandy counter here on the epcountyvotes.com website, 38 days, 14 hours, and 45 minutes as of right now away from Election Day itself. But, of course, we do have early voting coming up before that. So early voting will be February 14th. Lovely, just Valentine's Day present to ourselves here, I guess, through Friday, February 25th. So there's almost every seat that of consequence here going to be on this ballot. All of the partisan ones, absolutely. And this will, of course, be setting up then the final showdowns coming in November. Plus, we got other things that'll be coming on there as well, and more interviews. Probably be talking more about that as we get here. Leroy Chuck calling out Alan West for governor and saying he votes solely on the letter of the name and ignore their actual policies. ... God bless. I hope that is satire, because I am going to be pretty sure there's some people out there that do that, and I am going to also say that that is probably at least partially part of the reason we're in, gesturing broadly at the general situation that we're in. Because if we're just saying that, yes, ideology, regardless of what they're actually doing, is all I care about, you know what? As long as you're voting, I'll frankly take it at this point. But in an ideal world, with everyone voting, and yes, if I could wave a magic wand, that would be one of the things I would do, is make that everyone actually gets informed and goes out and vote, holding them accountable and saying, okay, you claim this, but then you never actually do anything about it is, well, it's a conversation a lot aren't ready for yet, but hopefully we are, if you're tuned in here, as actually getting to it, because, yeah. I guess there's a debate to be had if an uninformed voter is better than no voter. Well, we've seen what happens when there's no voters in our town. Anyway, I guess I'm ready for something else. Coming up on the need for that first break here of our show here, we are in the Free for All Friday state of mind. So if you're wanting to call in during the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And we got comments, more of that, all of that going on throughout both hours, 4 to 6 p.m. You're tuning to Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound between Lomaland and Lee Trevino. We've got some heavy slowing there and a backup. But the good news is I-10 eastbound Lomaland, the right two lanes that were closed earlier are back open. An accident Gateway Boulevard at Hercules, just north of Hercules at Edgar Park. And I-10 westbound at Viscount, disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Win $1,000.
No way. No way. No way.
Oh, baby. Yes way.
No way.
It's a grand in your hand. Listen every hour from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Autos. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Choose from every make and model from their super clean, hand-picked inventory and get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell the deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Autos, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only.
Conquer your New Year's resolution to be more productive with the Before Breakfast podcast. In each bite-sized daily episode, time management and productivity expert Laura Vanderkam teaches you how to make the most of your time, both at work and at home. These are the practical suggestions you need to get more done with your day.
Just as lifting weights keeps our bodies strong as we age, learning new skills is the mental equivalent of pumping iron.
Listen to Before Breakfast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mass Mutual knows retirement can be an uncomfortable conversation. Who's the big boy? You are. Who's going to take care of us when we retire? It's going to be you. You're going to make sure we don't end up in a retirement home. And if we do, it's a really nice one. With tango lessons. And bocce ball. And a community pool. Oh. Talk to us about retirement today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
8181. You agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Echelon. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at echelonfit.com/SMS.
You want to ride out and get on? Mr. Worldwide, and I tell you all the time, why dream when you can live it? And that's why now we have an amazing partnership with Echelon to make sure and to help everybody out there make their fitness dreams a reality. I'm here to motivate. I'm here to inspire you every day, baby. Now, Echelon makes fitness affordable for everyone. So, no more excuses. Take your stress and turn it into sweat. Reinvent yourself into the new you that you've always wanted to be. Now, take it from yours truly, Mr. 305, but it said, Mr. Worldwide, let me and Echelon bring your fitness dreams to reality. Why dream when you can live it? You already know. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. That's right.
And right now, for a limited time, radio listeners get up to $800 off MSRP. To get this Echelon exclusive radio discount, text HEALTHY to 818181. Text HEALTHY to 818181 to get up to $800 off MSRP. That's HEALTHY to 818181.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. On air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of ways that you can, participate in the show, particularly here on our Friday as our end of the week ritual of taking those comments and calls throughout the hour. Just got to keep it clean because, well, we are going to be talking about all the things going on. Pressure relief valve for the week is the way I kind of think of it because there's so much going on. It's impossible to even cover it within our couple of hours, but trying to get into a whole 24-hour news cycle, don't mistake me. But, hey, there's always more coming up here, and what else is going to talk about the stuff that affects us here or that is of interest to the people who live in the borderland like we are. So if that's what we do, that's our purpose, and that's what we'll be doing 4 to 6 p.m. here today. So, on that note, phone line 915-544-5876. 544 KTSM. A lot of comments coming in here. John Browsel 10 also beating that anti-Democrat drum, saying Democrats really good at taking money from the taxpayers and giving free money to those people who don't deserve it. Well, again, with the ballot coming up, that was definitely the most operative time to get involved with that. Calvin Williams with an interesting take, saying someone who has never held office is better than someone who has held office and done nothing. Interesting concept there. Well, if someone comes in with a good idea and willingness to do something, I'll tend to take a little bit more notice and attention of them. Again, what it comes down to for me, even besides ideology or what they profess to do, is what are their actual policies and how are they actually going to implement them? Because a whole lot of great ideas can end up being put on stump speech or being talked about as these are our platform positions. But if there's no real plan, okay, you've got this great idea that I'm wholeheartedly in favor of, how are you actually going to get it into place and not recognizing I don't know, things like political realities, you start then losing me. So those are the things I look for. And once we start getting into more candidate interviews again, looking at that starting early next month, that's some of the stuff I'll be asking anyway, as the way we do our interviews in order to get information out of the people we're talking with. But again, get into those phone lines, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, I just thought I'd share the big news of this week that I doubt that your Trumpy listeners would hear because they're in their right-wing bubble for the most part. But Ivanka, Trump's grifter daughter, was called to testify to the Congressional January 6th Commission over her repeated pleas to her father to call off his mob's attack on the Capitol while he gleefully was watching what he called his people fight for him. This nepotism, Ivanka should have offered Daddy another twerk dance to call off his mob. Maybe that would have worked. The Supreme Court rejected Trump's plea to keep his White House records around the events surrounding January 6th secret. What was he hiding? He's been hiding all this stuff all these years now. Could it be an insurrection and treason, you think? The National Archives handed over 700 documents about what was going on in the White House with Trump and his advisors and staff on January 6th. The committee has already gotten testimony and documents from over 500 witnesses. They're all flipping on them. The rats are jumping ship. Trump is just so justly screwed. The New York Attorney General's office also told the court Tuesday that its investigators have uncovered evidence that the former president Trump's company used fraudulent and misleading asset valuations to get loans and tax benefits. Now, Andrew, I was a mortgage officer for many years, and I've been a condemnation commissioner for many years also, and I can tell you that bank, tax, and insurance fraud are felonies. Trump's he's a lifelong cheater. He cheated on all three of his wives, and the differences in these valuations are way off. They're thousands of % off. They're not even close.
Okay, sure, and I'm sure that if that is the case, it will be investigated thoroughly by the relevant authorities. Hope they don't overstep and go into vindictive territory. But the gleefulness and the tone here is what really gets me, I guess. And the idea that there shouldn't be justice done. And just as a quick correction there is not a subpoena being given to Ivanka as far as I'm aware. It is a request to give voluntary testimony at this point. So let's just make sure we're talking about facts when we're talking about what is going on with all of this. I don't think it's any surprise to any longtime listeners about your focus on this issue and concern of it. And sure, we take on all of these things here on Fridays as we do. But, I got to ask, this as a focus, sure, it kind of fades into the background for me when we're talking about other various serious things, including what is going on and statements being wrangled from our allies from the current sitting president. That's a little bit more front of mind for me, I have to admit.
Well, we're not going to go to war with Russia over Ukraine. That ain't going to happen. I don't want it to happen. I don't think most Americans want it to happen. We're also not going to go to war for Taiwan. So that's in the past, Representative Katie Porter, she's a Harvard Law graduate. She had some very interesting statistics the other day, and I saw one that I thought was great because of all the consternation over the inflation. According to her, the average American family has $354 per month more money even disposable income in real dollars, even after taking into account inflation and disruptions in the supply chain and price gouging. And one last thing, not fully funding the IRS. And President Biden wants to hire an additional 87,000 IRS agents. That costs the taxpayer, American citizens, $1 trillion per year in uncollected taxes. Let's go after that money. Let's stop letting these rich people like Trump get by and not paying their fair share of taxes. That's just wrong. We need the money for Americans, for all the problems that we have here, for all the suffering we have here, and those people have more than enough money. Thank you.
I mean, the idea of get the money from who it's deserved from, but I think you're dreaming if you think that all of that money is only going to come from the top, half 1% of whatever it is, particularly given that whole little $600 transaction rule. It's not just going to fall on the people outside of everyday honest experience. It's going to come down to you and me. And I think if you're not recognizing that, being a little bit dishonest with yourself here, yeah. I mean, it's just, they're going to come after everyone, and particularly those, because another thing you have to realize about that top 1.5% or however you want to cut it down, is that they got the funding and the resources to be and having attorneys, people able to put the numbers together for them and skew it, and also all of the tax tactics that can come along with it. So I'm not worried about them in the general sense in anything, but I think it's what's really going to come down is to the everyday person who is wondering, why is this being looked at a lot more than it has previously? And I've never been audited. Nope, knock on wood, never will be. Never get anywhere near getting to it in the work that I do or the way I report my taxes. But that's, I think, more of a common thread of people concerned when they hear about, well, I'm not sure that increasing the IRS's reach is popular with just about anyone you really talk to when you get down to brass tacks, but maybe that's just me. All right, trying to get to at least one more call here before we hit this next break. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew from the West Side.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Yes, I have to respond to something that Raul character said. That individual from Harvard Law School, what metrics is she using? And has she come down here to the border to actually interview individuals to see exactly how much disposable income is available? I certainly am not in that category, for one. Number two, how come Biden's not being investigated for possible collusion if you take their argument to its logical conclusion? The other night he said something about a slight incursion into the Ukraine was acceptable. And number three, you can... one way to make a lot of money is if you tax carbon emissions. Yes. Imagine how much money would be made every time Raul opens up his mouth. Anyway, so much for insult comedy. You all have a good evening.
Sure thing. Thank you for the point and the call there. We are doing that throughout the program here today. So that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Got a few calls coming in right now, but we'll get to more here after this next break. You are tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Free for All Friday is the theme for the day, meaning we will take those comments and calls throughout the show. A lot rolling on here right now. And we'll get into more of that. So again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. More on that and all after this break.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Justin Creek, your CBS 4 News Update. Construction is underway on a new fire station in El Paso. Yesterday, El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser and others held a groundbreaking ceremony. The station will help to shorten response times in a growing part of northwest El Paso. It's going up near the Hospitals of Providence Trans Mountain campus. The new fire station will cost nearly $11 million. It's the first facility to be constructed under the public safety bond voters passed in 2019. The family of slain Army Specialist Vanessa Guillen is praising a new law after her death. The I Am Vanessa Guillen Act makes sexual harassment a crime within the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It also moves prosecution decisions of sexual assault and harassment cases out of the military chain of command. Investigators found Guillen was sexually assaulted and killed by another soldier at Fort Hood, Texas in 2020. The man involved took her body to another location miles away where she was discovered more than 2 months later. Guillen's family says they advocated for this legislation to honor her memory and prevent other people from getting hurt or killed. With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Loma Land. Police are on the scene of an accident there. I-10 eastbound between Loma Land and Lee Trevino is a little slow and go from that earlier road construction. All lanes are back open there now. I-10 westbound at Viscount. Stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Stay left there. And police on the scene of a crash at Constitution and Crockett. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
We ended the week on a much nicer note with cool and dry weather. Expect mostly clear skies and light winds this evening, which will set the stage for another cold morning with overnight lows in the upper 20s to lower 30s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about cooler air hanging around through the weekend, plus the timing of our next weather maker that may bring a few flurries to the area. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's new hot and crispy fries. Right now at Wendy's, see why everyone is raving about their brand new fries. Natural cut, skin on with a hint of sea salt, and guaranteed to be hot and crispy or they'll replace them. You know, the way fries should be. Try Wendy's guaranteed hot and crispy fries today at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Happy New Year, El Paso. This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas for helping us have a record-breaking year. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering 0 down, 0 APR for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, and exceptional trade-in offers for any trade.
Keep your cash and save thousands with record-breaking price cuts during the Start Something New sales event going on now at Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. 2022 Ram trucks, huge selection, huge savings. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokees, Dodge Charger, and Durango SUVs. Looking to save thousands on your next car, truck, or SUV? The all-new Southern Park Dodge Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter has a great selection with more arriving daily. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We're buying a car. It's still fun at I-10 at Southern Park Drive or online at southernparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance. Also with vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Talk El Paso, airing weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, focused on local businesses, local politics, local impacts of the day's news. Brought to you in part by Thrive 915 Food Fest. Join the conversation Monday through Friday at 4, and let's talk El Paso.
The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour, and always online at KTSMradio.com. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are doing that whole Friday thing, which means taking those comments and calls throughout the hour. A lot of chiming in. The Skeptic Squad in full force out here. Calvin Williams, A.W. Hill, Epifanio Yanni, Michael Perez, Leroy Chuck, a lot more. Asking in one point, how long has our previous caller been a closet conservative? James Radcliffe and more. Yeah, there's a lot to get into here, and we will be doing that throughout these 2 hours. So 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. There's a question out there. I'm barely on our payroll as it is. There's no one else that is a paid contributor to here, even if it seems like we have quite the cast of characters. But hey, we do this on Fridays because I think that we deserve to have this discussion. Now, what's important to us? So again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Right now, we do have a Daniel on the east side here with us. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Doing all right.
I have just a couple of comments. Number one, after Biden's, whatever that was, we still have guys that actually the guy is okay, that he's all there. He can't even finish a complete sentence or a complete thought even, which is a sentence. But he can't even, and he's got his ideas about, well, we're going to do this and we're going to build up better and so forth. And how we're going to do it is we're going to print more money and then we're going to screw the little guy. And I'm going to hire, like the guy said there, he's going to hire all these people so he can take money away. That still won't even cover, like you said. None of that is going to help the inflation. We have to go at it differently. We have to go at it from the demand side, and that's one. Two, over here in El Paso, that almost $2 trillion that they just got for bridges and so forth. Well, we're going to get $7 million for some kind of water project. That's it.
Well, that's one part of it, I will say. But, I mean, that's the question that came up yesterday was about what will that then mean for the water rates, and having lack of seeing anything else about it, my expectation is, yeah, that'll still be moving forward as well.
Exactly. So, you're going to, you ask these guys, well, where's all that money going to? Nobody, I'm still trying to figure out where that money is going to go to, line item by line item, and nobody knows. And it's going to go to their, political friends and the guys that got them in office. And I would also venture to say that happens on both sides of the aisle. So we need to start looking. We need to, figure out how long they're going to be in office, and the cost of, representative. It used to be $1 million to get into a house. Now I don't know how much. It must be $2 or $3 million. So where do they get it from? Funny money, Soros money and whoever else. So they sell their soul to the devil in order to get in office, and then they walk out of there like Pelosi, $270 million, and it's okay. That's where we're at. We need to really look at this and where are we going as a country, as a city, as a state. That's all of my comments.
No, I think those are very appropriate. We lost you there a little bit, but I think we got the general idea. So thank you for the points and the call there. I mean, anyone getting rich in public office always raises a little bit of a question for me, but even the money it takes to get into public office, Citizens United, that whole Supreme Court decision is one of the ones that rankles me more out there. It essentially determined that the spending of money is essentially speech, which has led to the advent of the super PACs that we have and the unlimited dark money and all of that. And sure, at a certain basic level, yeah, the ability to donate to a campaign is a form of speech, but it's not exactly an equal right. At the same point, it allows for, well, some of these situations we're talking about where there are interests that are then making decisions and essentially supporting it because, again, money doesn't decide elections, but boy, does it help. Because if you have the ability to raise, put out the ads, get the campaign signs out there, have the office, have the volunteers doing all of that, just makes it that much easier. Yeah, it isn't always totally borne out, particularly here locally. There have literally been candidates that lost to the less moneyed interest. But it just, in the balance, it's to be expected that it's going to help out and make it better for it. So that is one thing that rankles me whenever we talk about elections and why, even just the amounts being one thing, but where it's coming from and knowing that and knowing, okay, what promises, what expectations have you gotten for someone coming into office? Because, I mean, maybe you and me donating to a campaign would be, yeah, we just hope that they, we like their platform and hope they stick with it. But someone who's donating, multiple zeros behind a number going on there, that comes with a little bit of expectation, at the very least, for the next election being like, well, if you want to have this happen again, you better be doing what we like, and we'll probably send you some information on that kind of situation. It's to be expected. It's not exactly a secret, even though there's a lot of pretending around it, almost like puppet theater. It's dumb and I hate it, but it's one of the things we got to live with here. So again, thank you for the point in that call. We are doing that whole free-for-all thing on Friday as we do. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Leroy Chucking asking if there was another murder in El Paso. The one that I'm still focused on is the 2 women from El Paso found dismembered in Juarez. That one's been sticking with me, but checking with our news partners, not sure if there's been another murder. There was a crash into a guardrail, but, well, that happens more frequently than it frankly should here. So not sure there's another murder on there, but that whole Juarez situation got me more than a little bit concerned. It has been literal decades since I've been over to Juarez at this point. My generation was kind of one of the ones that going over to Juarez and the whole strip and Kentucky Club and all of that kind of really wasn't a thing for us because that was more or less the height of the violence going on. So not something I've done regularly, visited infrequently, very infrequently, but that's one of the more ones that I've been watching to here. Found in large black trash bags on Sunday, just real messed up and makes me wonder exactly what's going to be going on for that. Yeah, good Lord is a good response there as well. James Radcliffe not singing El Paso Water Utilities or Paso Water's praises. The latest thing that they've got out here is that they are looking at for the budget for this year, including a 9% increase in water rates, a 13% increase in wastewater rates, and a 9% increase in stormwater fees, increasing by $6.37 for dollars per month. So those combined fees for the typical residential customer. So, well, there's kind of the answer there coming out of it, saying that El Paso Water President John Ballou saying we must invest in our water, wastewater, and stormwater systems to deliver reliable services to our customers. So this coming out, when is this actually dated? Not dated on here, but will go into effect on March 1st of this year. So even with that investment that was both references and news updates yesterday and from that caller there, yeah, expecting those to continue apace as well. Michael Petta is actually bringing up an interesting point that has been developing since yesterday about shortages with trucking crossing the U.S. and Canada border because there are expectations that, well, essentially because of those new vaccine mandates that we talked about yesterday, that release coming about this time in our show yesterday, actually, and we discussed it towards the end, that vaccine mandate for non-citizens to cross to U.S. could cause truck driver shortage. That headline coming from our news partners over at KFOX 14, that they will have to be fully vaccinated according to, I'm assuming, CDC standards. It wasn't terrifically clear within the release itself, but that's my assumption at this point, correct or not. So requiring them to have proof of vaccination, verbally declaring it, and having appropriate documents for non-citizens entering, yeah, that could cause problems. So let's look out for that being fun. Another reason I'm happy I also don't live in East Texas, there's more expectations that with wintry weather coming this week, as reported by the Texas Tribune, there's a pipeline company threatening to cut off gas supply to Texas's biggest power generator, not because of the storm, but rather because of, well, what's going on with apparently contract negotiation and disputes there. So, yeah, that'll be fun. Real glad we're not over there, and don't intend to move anywhere anytime soon. But maybe that's just me. So a lot we're talking about here today because it is Free for All Friday, and we'll be taking those calls and comments throughout the hour. The Skeptic Squad is alive and well and kicking and thrashing right now over in the comments section, primarily Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, but we will take those calls, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. For that next break right now, but coming out of the break, we'll get to more of that, more of the comments, more of the issues affecting us here in El Paso, but we will take on any subject here today. So again, if you want to call in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard eastbound at Loma Land. Police are on the scene of an accident there. I-10 eastbound between Loma Land and Lee Trevino is a little slow and go from that earlier road construction. All lanes are back open there now. I-10 westbound at Viscount. Stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Stay left there. And police on the scene of a crash at Constitution and Crockett. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only.
The MLK Tapes is your next true crime podcast obsession. On April 4th, 1968, a lone gunman assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee. At least, that's the official story. The MLK Tapes podcast explores recordings of eyewitness testimonies to reveal the real story of the plot to kill Dr. King.
James Earl Ray was a pawn for the official story.
Listen to the MLK Tapes wherever you get your podcasts.
Casa Buick GMC invites you to the huge inventory used car sales event.
How huge is that inventory?
How about 325 cars, 350 SUVs, and the largest used truck collection in the Southwest?
What brands?
Just about all of them. From Cadillacs to Jaguars, BMWs to Chevys, Raptors to Denali's, and everything in between. Luxury, sport, or economy.
Wow, that's Casa Buick GMC?
Yes, and every vehicle comes with a 54-point inspection and a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty.
Financing?
Over 20 banks and credit unions, and you can even buy here, pay here with La Casita Finance.
I'm all in.
Casa Buick GMC, home of the nice guys, Montana at Airway.
An unmitigated disaster at our southern border, and you will pay the full price. This is a full-blown crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis. It is a national security crisis. It is a health and safety for you and your family crisis.
Joe Biden's weak border policies have made America and Texas less safe. Take it from Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council.
Joe Biden refuses to secure our southern border. He's crippled law enforcement and emboldened dangerous drug cartels, criminals, and human traffickers. That's why the National Border Patrol Council is proud to endorse Governor Greg Abbott for re-election. He deployed new resources to assist law enforcement, and he's cracked down on criminal activity. No other governor has done more to secure our border than Greg Abbott.
Vote on March 1st. Governor Greg Abbott, securing the future of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is coming back home to Fox Sports 1380, an iHeartMedia radio station, and the iHeartRadio app every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. starting January 7th. Do you love sports, food, El Paso culture? Then this is the show for you. I'm Mike Tipton, and I'm inviting you to tune in to The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton on Fox Sports 1380, covering local, statewide, and national sports stories, news, and information that you want to talk about. The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, Friday afternoons at 5 p.m. on Fox Sports 1380 and the iHeartRadio app.
The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend on this first hour, but we'll be taking those comments and calls throughout both hours here today, 4 to 6 p.m., because it is Friday, and that's what we do today is focus on, well, whatever you want to, because this is the pressure relief valve for the week. There's more than we can get to even with our 2 hours each day, even about El Paso, much less everything beyond, but if it's important to you, we want to talk about it, so that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, a lot of stuff comes right through our backyard. So we're talking about immigration, border security, trade, transit, travel. All of that stuff just kind of slightly affects us and comes straight through our backyards, essentially. But there's a whole lot more out there, so we'll get to all of it. And, of course, a couple calls on the line here right now. Right now we do have Richard in Northeast on the line here with us. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Hello. I haven't called you about a month or so, but I just want to call you with maybe some slight criticism, but mostly positive.
Sure.
And specifically, I am pleased you went to 2 hours because I was trying to promote that the last time I called you. And I am interested in primarily a lot of the things that affect El Paso, the county, and so forth. I think I've mentioned last time that I would prefer that it wasn't so much right-wing conservative because I am left. And I think I told you years ago you had the late Alan Combs on and Coast to Coast AM on that late night, which I do listen to, but although that's kind of getting political as well. But that's my only criticism. But I know that you're pretty much along the same lines as the other iHeart stations across the country, because I do travel a lot, and I told you that. So I'm able to listen to you on iHeart Radio, which I'm doing now.
Okay.
But, getting back to one thing I had that I haven't been able to focus too much on is what is the latest about the project downtown, say an underground tunnel and a plaza over the area downtown?
Yes.
What comes to mind real quick is I'm from Phoenix, and they have something similar to that. And it seems to be working out okay, but I think what they proposed here in El Paso would be a good idea, but I'm not so sure if a lot of people are on board with that. So that's what I have.
No, I mean,
that.
that's a good point there, and one that we haven't checked on in a minute. So thank you for the point in the call here. Glad you're calling in safely as you're on the road. So you're talking about specifically, I believe, the Reimagine I-10 project and study. So, well, actually, you're talking about the next step after that. So let's take this piece by piece real quick. So the Reimagine I-10 study that has been going on for at least a couple of years now, at least as far as I'm aware, is going to be the project to redo I-10 throughout basically the entirety of El Paso County. It's going to be starting, I believe, essentially from the state line down to Mesa. We actually kind of had that from the mayor of Las Cruces, you may recall earlier this week if you were listening, talking about that whole lane change, the constraining of lanes. So that's going to be a part of it, probably one of the earliest parts we see. But then we've had previous guests on both TxDOT officials as well as concerned community members about what happens then through downtown, because the project with I-10 itself, there's possibilities of things being added, being removed, blocks essentially disappearing. More specifically, the most controversy seems to center around what might happen to the blocks between I-10 and Yandle, because there's a couple of those half blocks, some high rises of housing. And if that adds to end up being expanded, I-10 needing to take those out, well, that particularly Sunset Heights and the neighborhood association there has a few concerns going on with it. Nothing is set in stone yet, but there's a certain trajectory that does seem to be on the way of possibly including that. So talking about the tunnel and the roof or the deck over it, as it's been said, that would come next. There has been a study authorized, but it kind of depends on that first part, because whether you're going to cover the existing span of I-10 as it is, or the expanded one, if it comes there and ends up cutting into neighborhood blocks, well, that's a completely different animal. So those are all still essentially in proposal stages, no shovel-ready kind of things going on at this point, to put it one way. But that is a topic that is ongoing, and one that we probably need to revisit here in 2022, having focused on it a bit last year, because, yeah, that'll, well, any way you slice it, particularly for being on the road as you are, it is going to be a rough time for trade, transit, and travel through central and main lines of El Paso, probably for the next, just spitballing cloudy crystal ball time here, next decade or so, because all of the projects, all major roadway repair, refit, redo, expansion, extension, where we're talking about the Border Highway West expansion, Loop 375, Transbound, even Mesa out here, all of that, all of the state maintained and built roads and highways, practically all of the work there because of some need on its own, but all of it is coming down to basically one major point and purpose, and that is the redoing of I-10 itself, because basically ever since it was built, it has not had roadbed maintenance. So that is its own issue, but then what comes along with it, going beyond just maintenance into what are the priorities? How do we want trade, transit, and travel to go through the heart of El Paso? That is still a little bit in flux. So it's a good question and a very large topic, something we probably need to revisit here again. So thank you again for that point and that call here. Well, let's squeeze in one more before I hit the top of the hour, but we will be continuing to take calls throughout the next hour as well. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
I've been on the east side.
Hey there, Ben. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm just wondering about the news conference the other day, and was anybody else going to bed wondering whether or not we were actually going to be at war with Russia, and whether or not there is going to be things that we used to think was America anymore. The one thing that he brought up, and he asked whether the next election will be a legitimate unless Congress passes the John Lewis and Fair Election Act. and allow the federal government to dictate to the states how the states run their elections. You think that was a good idea to bring up something like that, making it where half the people in the United States now believe that it's not going to be a fair election?
That's a complicated damn topic.
A lot more.
I mean, yeah, it's that is such a quagmire of an issue. I don't even know if realistically they're going to be able to move on it. I mean, they've got an audience of, well, it used to be one, probably now two, or maybe even a handful of senators that essentially that this appeal is coming down to, because of course Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Christian Sinema of Arizona are the major sticking points they got there. But as this is drawn on, it does seem that there are more and more of these senators when it comes down to dealing with just the tactics it would take to get that through, are proving more and more reluctant, particularly those in or being increasingly considered battleground states. So whether or not they're actually going to be on board, it seems like it might be just that rhetoric, as you referenced there, kind of trying to do an end run around them, doing an exact appeal. But I don't know if that tactic is going to work or is going to be a good one to be putting into kind of the general minds, like you were saying there. I find myself not exactly in favor of it, and maybe they should. I mean, it's the same kind of thing we're dealing with the whole Build Back Better agenda of them, the administration and general congressional and Senate Democrats trying to say, let's continue to push this through, but they keep running into these roadblocks of technique and tactics of being able to actually implement it or not. And frankly, I think they're going to be sunk in just the election coming up, even shorter term than that, if nothing gets done, because you can only throw up your hand so many times and say, well, we tried, but we couldn't do anything before. Well, people, particularly if we're talking about the inflation, the impacts, are saying, what did you do to deal with this? And they said, well, we tried real hard. Yeah, that's not exactly a great campaign point.
He also talked about one other thing about economic sanctions that he's going to deploy against Russia.
Yeah.
And he said they are not only going to hurt Russia, but also the United States and the European economies. Do you think that the members of NATO are going to come and back our play if we decide, if Russia decides to go into Ukraine and we're going to go to war with them? Do you think? I mean, NATO and the countries of NATO have always played another game, which is protect themselves. I think they're going to hightail it and make sure that they're not going to be part of that.
I mean, that's been the question of the week here, absolutely. And I mean, there's economic, there are logistical, there are military considerations going into all of this. But, we're going to have to get to that more after the break here because we are due for the top of the hour. So stay tuned. We'll get to that question, promise, and more coming out of this break with more Talk El Paso. Again, if you wanted to call in, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got an injury accident on Trowbridge at Gateway Boulevard westbound. There's already a backup with delays on Gateway westbound, Trowbridge back to Geronimo. Liberty Expressway just east of the 54 Gateway at Marshall Road, an accident reported there. And a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, Loop 375 southbound at Socorro. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Happy New Year, El Paso. This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us have a record-breaking year. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering 0 down, 0 APR for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, and exceptional trade-in offers for any trade.
Keep your cash and save thousands with record-breaking price cuts during the Start Something New sales event going on now at Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. 2022 Ram trucks, huge selection, huge savings, save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokees, Dodge Charger, and Durango SUVs. Looking to save thousands on your next car, truck, or SUV? The all-new Southern Park Dodge Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter has a great selection with more arriving daily. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Where buying a car is so fun at I-10 at Southern Park Drive or online at southernparkdodge.com. Discount from Twist El Paso is also strong. Increased factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance. Also with vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The FBI is confirming special agents shot to death a suspect in an attack on a North Texas synagogue. Special agent in charge Matt DeSarno told reporters today Malik Akram was becoming erratic during negotiations last Saturday at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville. He also made multiple demands and threats. A Southeast Texas federal judge is issuing a preliminary injunction against President Biden's COVID vaccine mandate. Judge Jeffrey Brown ruled Biden was abusing his authority by requiring federal workers to get the shot. He criticized the White House for issuing the order without congressional approval, while noting he believes people should get the inoculation. The FBI has issued what it calls a final investigative statement in the death of Gabby Petito, saying her fiancé confessed to killing her. Gordon Bird has more.
The Bureau's Denver field office says Brian Laundrie took responsibility for Gabby Petito's death in a notebook found with his body at a Florida nature preserve in October. Investigators believe Laundrie killed his fiancée during a cross-country trip in August and left her body at a camping area near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, where her body was discovered September 19th. The FBI says attention on mass media and social media was invaluable in solving the case. I'm Gordon Bird.
The House committee investigating last year's Capitol riot now has a bunch of documents from the Trump White House. NBC News reports more than 700 pages have been given to the committee. The COVID Omicron variant surge is starting to decline in some parts of the U.S. That's according to CDC Director Rochelle Walensky.
Current 7-day daily average of cases is about 744,600 cases per day, a decrease of about 5% over the previous week.
You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A new report says unvaccinated people over age 65 are almost 50 times more likely to be hospitalized if they get COVID.
New CDC data finds unvaccinated senior citizens who contract COVID are 49 times more likely to need inpatient hospital care than seniors who've been vaxxed and boosted. Meanwhile, unvaccinated people between 50 and 64 were 44 times more likely to need hospitalization when compared to those who are both vaxxed and boosted. Many cities across the U.S. now report the Omicron spike in COVID cases may be starting to ease. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Almost 4,000 banking locations closed last year across the U.S. That's according to data from S&P Global Market Intelligence. The number of closures is a new record. S&P says nearly 4,000 closed, while more than 1,000 were opened. New York City's Mass Transit Authority is seeking ideas to help stop deadly transit collisions and delays. Liz Warner reports.
While trying to stem the dangerous surge in trespassers and objects on train tracks, the agency has issued a request for information to create a high-tech intrusion detection system. MTA is hoping that manufacturers and vendors within the railway and tech industries can help out amid the surge, which has caused thousands of delays in recent months. Among criteria, a system that distinguishes between humans and objects on a track, and also one that detects intrusions up to 600 feet in the distance.
A stone sculpture considered the holy grail of folk art is found after going missing for 90 years. Collector John Foster spotted the sculpture known as Martha and Mary on a front porch in St. Louis. The owners were unaware that the statue of two women seated side by side was the work of William Edmondson, one of the best-known black folk artists of the 1930s. Edmondson, who was the son of slaves, used to sell his sculptures for $35. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Green. That's green. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Saving money feels pretty good. So lower your rates, not your expectations. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Conquer your New Year's resolution to be more productive with the Before Breakfast podcast. In each bite-sized daily episode, time management and productivity expert Laura Vanderkam teaches you how to make the most of your time, both at work and at home. These are the practical suggestions you need to get more done with your day.
Just as lifting weights keeps our bodies strong as we age, learning new skills is the mental equivalent of pumping iron.
Listen to Before Breakfast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Think you can handle another iHeartRadio True Crime Week?
With thousands of true crime podcasts to choose from, finding your next case to binge can be a little intimidating. Lucky for you, our investigators are on the scene with an entire lineup of podcasts to get you started. From stone cold killers to cold cases waiting to be cracked, including the new iHeart podcast, The MLK Tapes.
He never confessed.
Open the free iHeart app and search True Crime to start your next podcast obsession. iHeartRadio. Discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
Over the last 30 years, 8 million U.S. service members have returned home after serving our country around the world. The biggest challenge a returning vet faces is getting back to everyday life. And a key to that is personal wellness. iHeartRadio has teamed up with some of America's biggest veteran organizations and programs to create Show Your Stripes, a one-stop destination for veterans and their families to find the resources they need. If you're a veteran facing challenges, or if you're looking out for the well-being of a veteran you know, visit showyourstripes.org today.
News Radio 690, KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, locked into the second hour of our program here today, 4 to 6 p.m. as we are doing it. Plus, of course, it's Friday, that little thing we do called Free for All Friday, focusing on what you all want to talk about. We'll take on any subject, though we still have some of those FCC standards as such. But we'll do that throughout the show. So for the second hour here, getting into more of that number to call again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Plus, a lot of comments and a lot more going on the Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso is still the primary page in my mind. It's where we get the most interaction, and it's where the Skeptic Squad lives, and the Thunderdome of comments is thrown up daily. Leroy Chuck adding on that the downtown project being delayed by the quote-unquote mural project, which depicts a picture of the completed I-10 being completed. I never realized that the whole mural issue was going to become such a boogeyman for you, and I could not have predicted this, but at least we know very firmly that you're on the anti-mural ticket for these upcoming elections here. Yeah, it's Kevin Worm's asking a question about Jesse Kelly. He comes on immediately after Mark Levin, so a little bit later this evening. If you want to check out schedules, you can do so over on our website, ktsmradio.com. And a whole lot more going on here. Calvin Williams saying, I hope China loses money hosting the Olympics. That's kind of the thing about the Olympics. In general, host countries do. That's the kind of dirty little secret that isn't quite so hidden about the Olympics, to my understanding, is that it kind of doesn't even matter what happens with it. I mean, ideally, they would then use the facilities kind of in perpetuity. Happened when a while back, managed to visit Australia and see their just post-Olympics facilities still in use, but in general, you got to build all new stuff for it, build new facilities. Heck, when Russia did it, a lot of graft happened with it, but there was the road that was like $1 billion per mile getting up to some of the ski areas and stuff like that. I mean, anything in Russia, practically a kleptocracy, so I'm not sure that it would have absolutely cost that much, but just kind of an example that, yeah, a lot of money gets lost in this here. Other comments coming on, we had Raul saying Citizens United equals golden rule equals best politicians plutocrats can buy, and then going on against the GOP and their use of it. Here's the thing with that. If you think that any one side in particular is only using it, you're sadly mistaken. It's kind of an overarching problem when it comes to those that are already in power maintaining that and not exactly letting common concerns or challenges come up. That's the real issue I have with it, is that it's skewing and thumb on the scale of what is supposed to be happening when it comes to how elections are supposed to work here. But we had that question coming out of the break about primarily centering around the Biden news conferences this week, and the one that is still very front of my mind was the whole, well, if Russia does something small, it'll be fine. My paraphrasing there. And the pretty immediate response from everyone else, both in terms of Western European allies and then Ukraine themselves, saying, what the heck did you just say? Because no, any incursion is bad. Let's not qualify the size of them. That has now led to various State Department officials over there trying to then rally together and say, no, we got a totally united front. But of course, there are further concerns that go into this. You know what? We have heard about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that has been, it's part of an ongoing issue that, sure, Russia is more than a little bit antagonistic. I follow a lot of international security conference and those kind of publications and work, and the amount of essentially, depending on how you want to describe it, gentle testing up to almost straight incursions of Russian aircraft within Western European and even North Atlantic or North Sea airspaces has been ongoing for a while now, has seemingly ramped up, but given how often they do it anyway, it's a little bit hard to tell. It's kind of a testing the waters kind of situation. So Russia, always a little bit antagonistic, but it's also essentially the heating source for a good chunk of Europe when it comes to these pipelines and such, which is why actually looking at non-Russian controlled pipelines has become somewhat of a strategic concern. But that Nord Stream 2 pipeline that has been coming up a lot in the news is one that would be built kind of north through that North Sea area and then going into Germany. And there's the question about how exactly things will be negotiated with Russia based around this, if this will be a NATO united front. And NATO really is kind of the central question of this current conflict, with Russia saying that NATO needs to prohibit Ukraine from ever joining, which is more than a little bit of a red line for the alliance in general with its open door policy. But there's also been some movement by European leaders to say, well, maybe we should negotiate separately with Russia, because there's a lot of economic reliance that happens on these pipelines and a lot of supply that comes from Russian oil fields, the Transcaucasus region. You may remember more than a decade ago now when Russia invaded Georgia, the country, not as in sweet home, but Ossetia and South Ossetia and those regions. That was more than a little bit focused on Russia's territorial ambitions and flexing its might in general, but then also there's a lot of productivity and importance to that region, because the whole Caspian Sea area and all of that, it was a region, there was a push back in World War II by the Axis powers to try and seize those, because that was going to be a major point of them being able to then continue their operations in the area, and what ultimately ended up being a major focus of then the Soviet Union's offensive, to go way the heck back in history. I'm a little bit of a history nerd that way. Point is, the past informs the present, and that has continued and has a serious impact for Europe and its ability to move forward. So will NATO hold strong is the gamble that, as Putin looks forward to move forward, that he keeps making along with it. So that's just some of the factors. Again, I spend a lot of time looking at international politics, international relations, and it does not do with most of what we regularly do on the show, but I can't help myself. And then on the flip side, Taiwan, the NIDASH line, Philippines getting in more light attack helicopters in order to help enforce their territorial claims in the South China Sea that have been getting very much pushed back on by China itself. It's a whole mess out there, but it's like a train wreck. I can't help but not look away. So those are just a couple of things. A lot more of that news conference as well, but this is not just me talking here today. If you want to call in during the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Oh, there's so much going on that we can't even fit it within the couple hours that we do have daily. So if you've got a concern, something that you want to focus on and talk about, we will take on any subject here today. But just ask you to keep it clean if you are calling in. A lot in the Skeptic Society as well, chiming in. Again, Calvin Williams, Michael Perez, Raul, Leroy Chuck, and more. Again, if you wanted to chime in and tune in through all of those, John Brazelton as well. There's a lot to get to here today. Leroy Chuck letting us know he's probably going to drink less water. Getting to the Public Service Board, loves the overreaction every time it rains. Like, leaders can't figure out that rain and desert don't exactly mix. We need better civil engineering in El Paso. Not going to disagree with you on that particular point, because, I mean, seriously, the whole loose rock situation, that did not work out well over the summer. So if I have the chance to design, at least for my own circumstances, we've got, technically loose rock in my front yard, but it's like big loose rock. Doesn't wash away much, but I might actually, I thought I would never do it, but I might be looking at some of that artificial turf, because at least it'll like stay in place unless we get a serious deluge. Civil engineering is a serious issue when it comes to this. I remember back in the Storm 2006 kind of era when Silver Spring Street, just off of Westwind and Shadow Mountain, was essentially ripped up by that. And then there was the whole off of Mesa near Balboa, where there was I think it was a KFC at the time, no longer is, and the Blockbuster that was there that essentially got railroaded through by the force of the water. So there are definitely some challenges when it comes to stormwater management and the issues in our area. I don't live in the Lower Valley for a whole lot of reasons. A, I love the area. B, It has been described by the Army Corps of Engineers as a giant bathtub with no drain. Yeah, that was actually a presentation I was in on County Commissioner's Court a few years back, and that will take dozens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to fix that, but there are more high priority issues going on. Yeah, so stormwater is a serious topic we got to deal with in this area, and if people keep building in Arroyos and then wondering why their front door is now connected to their back door with a freight train of water straight through it, well, that's going to continue on as well. Anyway, we're due for that first break here right now. Again, we are doing that whole Free-for-All Friday thing, and we will be talking more about the issues that matter to you. So if you want to call in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot to get to, a lot more we'll do after this break, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690, KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an injury accident in Trowbridge at the 10 Gateway westbound. There's backups bound from Trowbridge to Geronimo. Liberty Expressway westbound at Marshall Road, just east of the 54 Gateway. Watch for an accident with police on the scene there. Loop 375 northbound is heavy stop and go at the 10 Gateway interchange. Also in that same area, stalled vehicles blocking the right shoulder at Loop 375 at Socorro. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just made up to $30 million in stock trading on big tech companies like Google. And these are the very same companies she oversees in Congress. After decades in public service, Pelosi has a net worth of up to $250 million. Now, Grant Stinchfield is on Newsmax exposing Pelosi and her hypocrisy. Watch Stinchfield tonight. You'll be shocked by what you find out and how much Congress is making on your dime. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern to Stinchfield on Newsmax, America's fastest-growing cable news channel. America trusts Newsmax for the real news you can't find anywhere else. Get Newsmax on every major cable system. If your cable operator doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want it. Or watch Newsmax free on your smart TV, like Samsung, Vizio, or LG. And streaming on Pluto, Zumo, Roku, and more. Millions of Americans just like you are turning off the old media for Newsmax. Watch Stinchfield tonight and find out why.
Casa Buick GMC invites you to the huge inventory used car sales event.
How huge is that inventory?
How about 325 cars, 350 SUVs, and the largest used truck collection in the Southwest.
Examples?
2016 Chevy Colorado, 29,887. 2014 Cadillac ATS, 18,791. 2017 Ford F-150, 34,337. And every vehicle comes with a 54-point inspection and a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty.
Financing?
Over 20 banks and credit unions, and you can even buy here, pay here with Lock and Cedar Finance.
Come all in. Where do I go?
Casa Buick GMC, home of the nice guys, Montana at Airway.
Mass Mutual knows that your finances can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Mark, we should really talk about our money.
Yep, we really should.
Like, we never talk about our savings.
No, we never talk about that. Or our assets.
Or our debt.
Yeah, we really should talk about our debt.
We need one of those financial plans.
One of those will make a difference.
We should talk about it.
We really should.
Talk to us about financial wellness today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Any of those places, most of those names, you'll be able to find us, because the point is to have the greatest ability to be out there where people are and have the discussion about the things that affect us here in the borderland, but we open it up a little bit more, as we do on Fridays, to taking on any subject, because there's a lot going on. Plus, a relief valve for the week is the way I think about it, just to get to all the subjects. So if you want to call in during the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Are some interesting developments going on, getting in some new information about campaign finance and fundraising. It's one of the more, polling's good. I like polling. It's useful to know how things are being charted on, but something I like a little bit more is actually campaign finance numbers and what that means. So we talked a little bit about some of those statewide races, getting a little bit clearer idea of what's going on in some local state house races right now, specifically that of District 79 for the Texas House of Representatives. That is that one that has been having, well, probably the most kerfuffle of any local state representative district of recent memory, frankly, because of the whole Claudia Ordaz Perez being drawn out of her previous district and then choosing to run by relocating her legal residence into District 79. All of that being its own legal kerfuffle. But there's a little bit of back and forth going on with the money being raised pretty close, but the snapshot that it gives us, these are not the full 2021 campaign fundraising numbers. That'll be coming later in the month. But again, a snapshot going into what this might mean for the primaries that we're creeping up on. Again, a nice Valentine's Day present to ourselves with early voting starting in February. So we have Art Fierro, the incumbent for the seat of District 79, who raised about $35,000 in change and has about $16,000 of cash on hand. So Claudia Ordaz Perez challenging him in this race that is probably going to be, well, we'll see how contentious it gets. Legal challenges already been flying and more or less resolved for the moment, it seems. Don't know if that'll actually be done for good, but only time will tell. She raised about $27,000 in change, with about $31,000 left in cash on hand. This has kind of been expected to be maybe not the biggest spending time for a lot of campaigns, but I don't know. I'm a little bit dubious about that. Hey, we've already got Governor Greg Abbott doing a bit of a blitz out there, and whether or not it continues, his own prerogative. But again, I like these snapshots because they show, in a way that it's hard to see otherwise, even with polling, what kind of support levels are going on with the campaign, plus what resources they have going forward. So decently close here. I mean, within roughly $8,000 of each other in terms of fundraising numbers. So how that'll be affected going into the primary, it's the main one to watch in our area, as a lot of other incumbents going unchallenged. Actually, I had some decent conversations about that last night out at, again, thank you to Thrive 915 and their speed networking business mixer out at Mountain Star Brewing. Some good conversations about the fact that there were some very, very easy plot lines to put forward into advertising about some of the incumbents, particularly the Democrat incumbents that we have primarily in our area. Again, nothing against them personally, but just from the standpoint of like a political analyst, there have been some very easy in points to say, hey, you should vote for me over these guys because of what they did during the session. But the fact that that didn't happen, says a lot more than I think we intend to when it comes to El Paso's political participation, but maybe that's just me. Getting some of the comments as well. Leroy Chuck on the Ukraine saying that for the last 500 years, Ukraine didn't exist. It was always considered Russia. Doesn't justify them invading, but it gives you perspective. Not sure if that's totally the 500 years. I mean, they were their own Soviet Socialist Republic part of it. But, I mean, the whole map of Europe, yeah, basically, if you can figure it out and chart it throughout history, that counts as like a full year's credit of political science and international relations in my mind. Because, I mean, for the same point, Poland has only existed technically for like 90 years out of the last similar kind of a time period. But Calvin Williams with the hot take, we should only just go back to only countries on the risk board. I'm sure Russia would love that. Anyway, getting to more calls on line 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Andrew, this is Joe on the west side. Hey, I wanted to bring some, some historical perspective to your show because I've been listening to it forever. And I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you were just on one day a week, which was Saturdays at 9 o'clock. And you had very few callers. And as a matter of fact, I think you only had one advertising agent and one company advertising on your show. And And your show has grown a lot. I mean, it's grown quite a bit, as a matter of fact. But one of the things that I remember was that a lot of people didn't want to listen to your show back then because you had one caller. And he's still calling, and he's still saying the same thing. But when you had that one caller, and people were, they would listen to him, and then they would say, no, I don't need this. And they wouldn't listen to your show.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he started disparaging the Border Patrol, ICE, police, and Trump, that kind of upset me. So I started calling. And I started calling because I wanted people to know the truth. And it was my opinion, but it was factual. And then people started listening. And word got around town, and they said, hey, there's a guy that calls in, and he really puts down the guy from Northeast El Paso down.
Mm-hmm.
So they started listening, more people started listening. You started getting more advertisers. And then you started going to 5 days a week. And then from 5 days a week, 1 hour, you started going to 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I deserve some credit for that because I started calling, and then all these other people started calling.
Mm-hmm.
And you started getting some really intellectual type people calling in that can really, talk about the facts, how things really work, but you still get this guy from Northeast El Paso. But I think even though he doesn't tell the truth and he lies and he doesn't know the facts, he's still important to this show because people get upset with him and they call in and they,
mm-hmm.
they tell the the facts and give their opinions, which are usually pretty intellectual type opinions. But
Mm-hmm.
and actually, I can relate to the people that call in because and I don't call in as much now because I'm just sitting back enjoying the fruits of my labor, and letting all these people call in and talk smack about the guy from Northeast El Paso. But this guy from Northeast El Paso is beneficial to his show because he's a troublemaker. He's trying to ruin your show. And now he's trying to ruin the history show, too, by calling in over there. But like I said, these people that are calling in are pretty smart, pretty intellectual. And it shows that El Paso, politically, is changing. You have a lot of Hispanics that call in, and they're conservative. You can tell they're very conservative. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know what your feelings are about this.
Well,
and I don't expect anything. I don't want any rewards or anything, any money or anything. But I think I helped your show, and I will continue to help your show and continue to support your show.
All right. Well, it's interesting perspective you bring there. So I do thank you for the call and the calls that you have made and your perspective here today. I mean, we appreciate all of the people who have called into the show throughout all of it. I don't just say it as a line that we appreciate those who have done it. That is what makes the show what it is. Otherwise, I mean, there wouldn't be much difference between this and your run-of-the-mill guy talking in a room by himself podcast, of which there is an increasing amount. So literally the discussion is important, and sure, take as much credit as you feel is relevant or necessary for yourself here. Won't begrudge you any of that. If we had t-shirts, sure, I would give you one. We don't have t-shirts. I don't have t-shirts. Maybe one day we'll have t-shirts. But the point is that I think that you're right in a way, but the way I'm going to say it is that I think there are more people that have wanted to be doing this here in El Paso than has had the ability to, clearly, as there really wasn't. Again, the closest I can see going a little bit further back in history is that Greg Frymouth was the last true live local talk radio show to be on air in El Paso, and he went off. I remember listening to him right after the invasion of Iraq, back when, to date myself, I was in middle school, and then kind of ended up shortly after that. It's hard to pin down the exact date. I haven't found any exact records, but that was kind of it. I mean, there has been radio and local radio hosts going on, but you got your morning music shows, you've got public radio and their pre-recorded focuses. It's continued, but in this format, in this way, in this call in and be able to participate into it, that kind of thing hasn't really been around as much. And so that always baffled me as, why did this go away? We're the 19th or 18th largest city in the country. We can't support that? Always baffled me. And that was why I pushed for this and wanted this to happen. And again, much appreciation to everyone who has wanted to call in and participate in it. And I hope that maybe there is a bit of a change going on, even in just the idea of participation. Because I think there are plenty of people who are willing to sit back, relax, and say, well, someone else will do it. And I think we've gotten a few people here that have then said, you know what, I think we need to stir it up, get it going, and get people talking about it. That's really what I want to do. So, again, take as much credit as you feel is due to you, and I will not disagree with you, but I think we need to keep it going and get more people involved and discussing this, even if they disagree with me, particularly if you disagree with me on any particular point. I want to know why. Let's have that discussion. So I thank you for the point and the call here. Calvin Williams asking about how many vans vehicles do we have, and I can't get a t-shirt. The vehicles predate me at this station, so they're dated as well, just to say. All right, we're overdue for that break for the bottom of the hour here. Coming out of the break, we'll get to more calls on the line here. We are talking about the things that we do here on Fridays. Call in if you want to. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Taking on all those calls and the subjects here today. Back in a minute with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Justin Krieger, CBS 4 News Update. People living in around Horizon City will have another opportunity to get vaccinated or boosted against COVID-19 this weekend. The free clinic is happening Saturday from 9 until 1 at the Idea Public Schools right behind the Hospitals of Providence on Horizon Boulevard. The vaccines are available for anyone 5 and older. The U.S. Supreme Court says no for now on striking down a Texas bill on abortion ban. The High Court rejected a request to send the Texas heartbeat law back to a federal district court. At least temporary derailing moves by abortion advocates to remove the law. The court allowed the law to remain in effect while it heard another challenge. The Texas law bans abortions after about 6 weeks when a fetal heartbeat can be detected. Back here in the borderland, the Sunland Park Fire Department out early yesterday morning rescued a woman who had fallen near the base of the Mount Cristo Ray. The fire department tweeted out pictures of the scene. The woman fell about 15 feet into a ravine and appears to have broken her leg. Rescue crews had to carry the woman out. She is being treated at UMC. With your CBS 4 News Update, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for an entry accident on Trowbridge at Gateway Boulevard westbound. 54 Gateway southbound is bumper to bumper from Trowbridge to Montana. I-10 westbound from Wrestler to Thorne is heavy stop-and-go traffic. Edgemere Boulevard east of Zaragoza at Jewel Point. Look for an injury accident there with police on the scene. You could take Pebble Hills as an alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
We ended the week on a much nicer note with cool and dry weather. Expect mostly clear skies and light winds this evening, which will set the stage for another cold morning with overnight lows in the upper 20s to lower 30s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about cooler air hanging around through the weekend, plus the timing of our next weather maker that may bring a few flurries to the area. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Panera. With Panera's You Pick Two, create your perfect meal with over 465 pairings to satisfy every mood. Feeling fresh? Hello Asian Crunch Salad. Feeling bold? Yes, Thai chicken soup. Panera, the familiar made fantastic. $1 delivery on their app.
Happy New Year, El Paso. This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us have a record-breaking year. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering 0 down, 0 APR for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, and exceptional trade-in offers for any trade.
Keep your cash and save thousands with record-breaking price cuts during the Start Something New sales event going on now at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. 2022 Ram trucks, huge selection, huge savings. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokees, Dodge Charger, and Durango SUVs. Looking to save thousands on your next car, truck, or SUV? The all-new Sunland Park Dodge Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter has a great selection with more arriving daily. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We're buying a car. It's still fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance. Also salvage vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
The Just for Pros event is back at Lowe's, and they're celebrating hardworking pros with special savings on the top tools, plus bonus perks to help you with your business. Lowe's, the new home for pros. Valid 117 to 128, U.S. only. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late. Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A little bit of a historical perspective, riling some people up here. In answer to a couple of questions, that caller that was mentioned was not the only or the first caller, but he has been around for most of the duration. We had some people that have been around since more or less we started doing the show in some format or another. Started in mid-2017, if you really want to draw back into time there. Started around that mayoral election at that point. Crowded field, 8 candidates, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, in which first thing we did was had confirmed interviews with all of them. I think it was, if I remember correctly, Willie Cager ended up not showing up, but hey, we talked with all of them, and we've been doing it in some format or other, more or less ever since, so we continue a pace here. The show has definitely changed over the time and over the years. We got more focused on what works and what people want to talk about here in the borderland, and that's what we'll keep doing. So thank you for the comment here. Juan, Leroy Chuck, Calvin Williams, Edgar Ortiz, and more. Leroy Chuck saying that the Skeptic Show, or the Skeptic Squad, or the Skeptic Society, as I sometimes put it, is the real fan base, the reason the show is growing. You're welcome. Maybe we'll make buttons. Maybe I can make buttons happen before too long here. Maybe more in-person events. All of that on the horizon. But getting to more of those calls on the line now as we are doing that Friday thing. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. The couple calls on the line right now. We do have Joe on the east side here with us. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hi there. How are you? I'm Andrew. It really is a pleasure talking to you. I enjoy your show very much.
Greatly appreciate that. What's on your mind?
I'm going to talk about Raul.
Okay.
Raul, a very left-wing but very honest person, very opinionated, but a good man. I would vote for Raul over Beto O'Rourke any day. Please don't criticize Raul for his beliefs. They are not wrong. They are only different, the other side, but they are not wrong. I listen to him, and he is a very good man, and I would like to see him basically run against Beto. But again, let me just expand myself. He what he believes is a good point, and there's nothing wrong with it. So let me end this with he's a good man. Opposite of my point of view, but nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. That's a very interesting comparison of who to run against. And, well, I'm always in favor of people running for office. I wish more people would run for other offices than just the top of the ballot. We have that kind of a common problem around here. But, well, this is why we do what we do. I hope that there will be good, relevant, and quality points brought up at any juncture. Sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't, but we take it in stride because having the discussion and just getting people going about it, as opposed to the echo chambers that happen online or the I'm fired up about it, but I don't know what to do about it, and the lack of what comes from that has frustrated me for a long time. So the reason we do what we do, and we continue to do what we do, is in order And of course, already discussion happening on the perspective on our callers here. But we'll keep doing it as we do. Again, number to call 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Right now we do have Jerry in the Northwest here with us on the line. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
And you do a good job. You're very fair with individuals, and you're very kind, and you give them a lot of leeway to express themselves without cutting them off or talking over them like a lot of talk show hosts do, just to make a point. But you do also step in when they step out of line and make wrong comments or incorrect comments. But you do a good job. I have a question, though.
Sure.
Have you heard of the driveway law that the county is putting in?
I think I've heard on something similar to that about essentially not quite ordinancing, but counties don't strictly have ordinance power, but there's actually slightly expanding along those lines that the county is able to do.
Well, this is something where if you drive, if there's like a traffic jam and you take a shortcut through a neighborhood, you can get cited for that. And I don't understand how public roads can be regulated if you're just going to use them once in a while. Now, I do understand weight limits and stuff because I did drive truck for a while and going up streets that cannot handle certain weight limits and wide loads and long loads. But with the construction that goes on around El Paso a lot, it's very difficult to maneuver without going through some residential areas.
So you're not talking about there about the illegal exit. Our news partners over at KFox 14 article up right now. Illegal exit off highway could cause crash and could cost you hundreds, as was noted during some recent crashes. And I'm sure a lot of us have seen it. You come up and one that sticks in my mind is probably what's the actual street? Once you're just past Red and I-10 and you're headed towards downtown, sometimes there's an overpass there that people will then get into the dirt shoulder and then go onto the access road from there where there's not actually road. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
No, this is more of people taking a shortcut through to neighborhoods.
Oh, okay. All right.
And not going, let's say, up Patriot Freeway or whatever because there's construction. They'll get off at an exit and say, okay, I'll go up Dyer Street and then cut through these two neighborhoods and end up on Trans Mountain Road exit.
Okay.
From what I understood, that's how it worked, but I'm not sure on it. That's why I was asking the question.
I think I found what you're just talking about here. Yeah, also from our news partners, county passes new driveway ordinance after construction and safety concerns here in El Paso. So, yes, that came out a little bit earlier this weekend. It is, talking about things like 18-wheelers going right past people's houses. Again, it's an interesting thing from the county because essentially the county doesn't really have ordinance powers, or at least it didn't before this just recent session of the Texas legislature, but now they've been given a little bit more expanded when it comes to infrastructure specifically. So this is one of the first ways we've seen that starting to be implemented.
Okay. So I was just wondering if you can do something, check it out more. I guess I could look it up too on the internet, but not everybody has heard about this, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
No, it's a fair point to be made, so thank you for focusing on that, and that's literally why we do what we do today. Including Director of Strategic Planning for El Paso, Jose Landeros, the county would now be authorized to actually go in there and either remove the driveway that's unauthorized or obstruct it so that you can continue to utilize it in all interests of the public welfare, essentially claiming that, when there are traffic jams, kind of like you were describing, traffic jams or construction causing issues, that people taking off ramps, off roads, ways that were not intended to be, that they would actually, through this ordinance power, which again, usually not allowed by counties, but has now come into place. Counties cannot do the same thing as municipalities when it comes to that. They're now going to be potentially blocking off ways. Depending on the size or scope of the road in question, could be additional fees involved to get the proper roadway in place. So, yeah, that's something announced this week that will probably be coming.
Okay. I'll have to review that myself. Thank you, sir. Have
Sure
a
thing.
good day.
We'll probably post up the link there since the question has come up over on our social media. But due for that next break right now, coming on Michael Pat has already posted it there, so that is good. The Leroy Chuck saying the more laws that are made, the less freedom you have. Yeah, that's more of a discussion to have. We'll get into that here next segment. Do it for that break. So coming back, more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Taking a few more calls as we head towards the end of the hour. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard westbound is slow with delays, about 5-minute delays from Airway all the way to Reynolds. People are slowing down on the Spur 601 westbound at Marshall. That's exit 20B for wood debris in the roadway. It's rocking the right lane right now. Stay left there. And Edgemere Boulevard east of Zaragoza at Jewel Point Lane. An injury accident there with police on the scene. You can take Pebble Hills. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Make this the winter of you with Audible. Listen to the best of what you love, from comedy to wellness to the latest bestsellers. Find it all at Audible with audiobooks, exclusive originals, and popular podcasts. Start listening free when you sign up at audible.com.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes make a big difference for the environment. Did you know that keeping your tires even a single PSI lower than recommended means worse mileage and more trips to the pump? So do the environment and your wallet a favor and always check the tire pressure. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips on smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton. And I'm Adrian Casala, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean. So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads. It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free. Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
By texting 818181, you'll agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Echelon. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at echelonfit.com/SMS.
You want to ride out? Then get on. Mr. Worldwide, and I tell you all the time, why dream when you can live it? And that's why now we have an amazing partnership with Echelon to make sure and to help everybody out there make their fitness dreams a reality. I'm here to motivate. I'm here to inspire you every day, baby. Now, Echelon makes fitness affordable for everyone. So, no more excuses. Take your stress and turn it into sweat. Reinvent yourself into the new you that you've always wanted to be. Now, take it from yours truly, Mr. 305, but it said, Mr. Worldwide, let me and Echelon bring your fitness dreams to reality. Why dream when you can live it? You already know. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I don't know about you, but I feel good. That's right.
And right now, for a limited time, radio listeners get up to $800 off MSRP. To get this Echelon exclusive radio discount, text HEALTHY to 818181. Text HEALTHY to 818181 to get up to $800 off MSRP. That's HEALTHY to 818181.
Because everyone deserves excellent medical care, El Paso has its own free community medical clinic. RotoCare is a free walk-in clinic located at 301 South Schutz Drive and is devoted to improving the health of all El Pasoans, including those without insurance or legal documentation. RotoCare is open most Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, call 790-0700. RotoCare, because everyone deserves excellent medical care.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, in the home stretch for our show for this week. Coming up in the coming weeks, going to be talking more about political involvement, political engagement. Next week specifically, got some interviews coming on, well, voter activation and just getting involved in the political process. Maybe you've actually heard some spots running on our air ever since we set that interview. So that is going on and will be going on. Some trainings in town. So if y'all are interested in this, just regardless of what they're doing on our air, we'll be talking with them so you can find out more. Might encourage you to get involved. Very concrete way to get involved and find out about the process and then maybe get more involved. If it was a snowball going downhill, hopefully it'll continue to gather, well, not steam because that would melt it, but you know what I mean. So that's some of the stuff we got coming up here. Other topics, again, probably as we're getting into early February, more on candidates, starting to get contacted here. We'll be reaching out to those campaigns and such. So any candidates out there who want to be on our list of those to start working with the said interviews, best way to do that would be contact us via email, andrewpolk@iheartmedia.com, because, hey, we want to talk about the candidates and the stuff coming up here. Particularly some of them we'll be talking with after the primary happens, such as the challenger for the county judge is my expectation, because that's when the rubber will hit the road there as well. So we'll get into a whole lot more. Calvin Williams saying that make sure people write his name in for dog catcher. Is that actually an elected? I don't believe that's an elected position here in El Paso. But hey, if you're considering running for office, you know what? Go for it. So Leroy Chuck coming up with an interesting thing about that whole driveway ordinance, that the more laws that are made, the less freedom you have. And that comes to a certain standpoint here. I mean, there's actually two measures that, land of the free, home of the brave, all the way we talk about the United States. There are two measures that end up coming a little bit problematic when we talk about that, because the most laws on the books tend to be internationally looked at, United States. Estimates vary, but when you combine federal, state, local, and all of it, there end up being quite a lot of very specific laws here. There's a speech that comes from the start of the first season of The Newsroom, which I kind of keep in the back of my mind a lot. But we also, another way to concretely put it, is that we have, by most estimates, the most incarcerated people, either per capita or absolutely, of most of the countries. Doubt it's absolutely, but per capita. So there's a lot of ways that people can break the law, and there's a core of people that probably find themselves in and out of that system, or are the ones breaking it, and probably with reasonableness. But one that comes up as an example is that you could technically, in some states, be arrested for having an incorrect sized lobster in your car through no fault of your own, because that you bought it from someone who wasn't being honest with it. Technically, they'd be the ones who caused it, but you could still end up being arrested for it, because there's laws in place about, keeping the integrity of that harvest and those fisheries in place. Like, at a certain point, it makes sense, but the doctrine of unintended consequences is incredibly strong, because it might think like, oh, yes, that is a good law. We should do it. We should make that happen. I remember a kid's show from years ago saying, the law is, we want to make everyone happy, so the law is now everyone has to be happy. Doesn't that sound great? Isn't that such a great idea? Everyone has to be happy. Who could be opposed to that? And then, of course, you come down to the implementation of that kind of a thing. And, very simplistic idea, but you can immediately see the problems that would come along with that. And so a lot of these other ideas, particularly, there's a whole lot of reasons I live in Texas and not like New York or California, particularly when it comes along the lines of like the taxes on or trying to ban sodas. At a certain point, I get it. They are looking at, in aggregate, the costs that come to public health systems from the increased obesity, those kind of things. Like, sure, I get what you're trying to accomplish it, but when you then end up coming down and saying that, and thereby you are no longer allowed to do this, there's the whole concept of pushing and not pulling a string. You can pull a string, you can lead it somewhere, but by trying to push it, the string just bunches up and doesn't budge. It doesn't work. So putting incentives in place would be a better way to accomplish that kind of a goal. And then, of course, the whole conversation that comes around with nanny state. But what I find to be not exactly a mantra, but something that always sticks in my head when it comes to talking about laws, ordinances, what can or can't, what should or shouldn't be done. We've talked a little about shopping cart theory in the past and the idea of people being ready for self-governance. But when it comes down to the creation of laws and what should or shouldn't be done, a concept that I find very persuasive is that when in doubt, err on the side of liberty. Because if you are doing anything else besides that, you run pretty immediately and quickly into unintended consequences that are saying, yes, we are trading some liberty for X goal, insert goal here. And it's a cumulative effect. The more you whittle away at that, you may think, oh, it's just a little bit here. Nibbled to death by ducks definitely comes to mind. But just the way you think about it ends up being, again, problematic at best. Ed Clore saying, not in my backyard with a lot of this here. Calvin Williams saying, it depends on the law. Is it a Karen law? Someone doesn't like it, or a law to protect people? Again, there are a lot of important laws in the books. There's not a whole, like, I just throw it all out, but you also look at the way different countries do it, like particularly even some Nordic countries. I know they come up for different reasons because of, different lifestyles and the way they handle government. But one surprising thing you may actually realize is that there are very few, just to pick a particular subject, like personal injury laws, because it is kind of accepted that you stepping out and going into a public space, you're going to have to accept certain risk. It's more of just kind of a cultural difference. And that allows kind of cool things to happen, like some projects had like trampolines on the sidewalk, some really cool slides and things like that. More important to me when I was younger, but still, the fact that those, you could never even imagine those existing in this country because of the litigious nature that we have here. Because even beyond the basic laws, the whole I'll sue you, it was there was a foreign exchange student that I went to college with that he was so proud the day he figured it out that the ultimate American insult essentially was, don't do that or I'll sue you, because the way it gets taken so seriously and the way, again, the litigious nature of our society is huge, and the laws that come with it, yeah, it's a serious issue. So whenever you're considering these things and what a law will or won't do, it's also important to consider what is going to be on the bounds of it, because a law may set a line, but then there's the balance of power on either side of it, and if it pushes it one way or the other, it's never just, okay, this line cannot be crossed. It often ends up being, and then it has pressure on one side or the other from the way the law is implemented. So, to the sum total of the question that was actually being asked here by Leroy Chuck about we need to look at having less laws in general, frankly, in favor of it. Now, should this be accomplished willy-nilly and without regard for what the impact will be? No, because then you're going to have the same exact problem. But in general, I find myself being in favor of that. We'll have to leave it on that note here for today because we are out of time here for this week. So, we'll do it again next week, 4 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for tuning in, chiming in, participating in the show. Have a great weekend, y'all. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and we'll see you all next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We're looking at 5-minute delays on the Gateway westbound, Airway to Reynolds. Stop-and-go traffic all the way through there. Liberty Expressway at Marshall Road, traffic is slowing down to avoid wood debris that is blocking the right lane. Stay left. Border Highway eastbound at Balsam, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. And Edgemere east of Zaragoza, police are wrapping up an accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Happy New Year, El Paso. This is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas, for helping us have a record-breaking year. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering 0 down, 0 APR for 72 months, no payments for 90 days, and exceptional trade-in offers for any trade.
Keep your cash and save thousands with record-breaking price cuts during the Start Something New sales event going on now at Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. 2022 Ram trucks, huge selection, huge savings. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokees, Dodge Charger, and Durango SUVs. Looking to save thousands on your next car, truck, or SUV? The all-new Southern Park Dodge Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter has a great selection with more arriving daily. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Or buying a car is still fun at I-10 at Southern Park Drive or online at southernparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Increase factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $13.89 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their